What if I told you that stacked orders are your kryptonite? That is correct. Some of you out there really fall for the stacked orders quite a bit, and they see the overall dollar amount and you guys get a little bit too excited. I'm here to tell you that those things are your kryptonite. You accept enough of those, and if enough things go wrong, you could find yourself deactivated, and here's why. I kind of alluded to this yesterday in that edition of this, and it's called the timeliness rate. And these orders are you almost never can meet the timeliness metric on these orders at all. And here's why. Specifically in your market like mine, which has one of the longest restaurant wait times in the nation, you will never hit that metric, particularly here. You will not be on time on almost any of those orders at all, because restaurants here are backed up so much. Again, average wait time 12 minutes. The apps do not consider a history of this when it comes to setting these metrics on these deliveries. So it doesn't consider that X restaurant has a notoriously long wait time. Applebee's, in this particular case, has a notoriously long wait time. The only way that you're going to be able to hit the metrics is if you pick up at McDonald's. McDonald's in Forest Lake, for example, is the gold standard. I know, it sounds nuts, doesn't it? But it is. McDonald's is our gold standard for Dasher pickup times. It's almost always ready immediately the moment you walk in the door here. So if you pick up some McDonald's stacked, yet you might be able to pull it off. But that's a rare case. And the worst ones in the stacked space are the ones that, you're picking up from two different places and delivering to two different customers. You will never meet those here. Let me know in your market how that particularly works, but I just, I don't think most markets are that different in that regard. And so you will destroy your on-time metrics by picking up stacked orders. Don't let the overall dollar amount fool you. I reject almost all of them. Like I said, unless there's two McDonald's orders. And again, if you're picking up from the same place and it has a good reputation like this, then I can take that, especially if the time and mileage are right. But those double orders, two pickup locations, and the other way that this destroys you is in your ratings. Again, if you have two different pickup locations going to two different customers, and one of them runs behind, the other one gets screwed. And you're going to be later than they were promised, and your rating will get downgraded, in addition to being reduced on your timeliness rate. And so that you get downrated for that as well, because you are late. As far as the customer is concerned, you're late. I've seen this happen before when I've had stacked orders earlier on in my time as a Dasher. Those ratings come in low. So again, I'm sitting here in this market, in this relatively slow market, waiting for orders on the Uber platform as I'm filming this, which is why if you watch me touching the screen, that's the way to do things out here, because we don't have enough business to justify driving around chasing orders or going to so-called hot spots. So if you see me touching the screen, that's why. But that said, stacked orders, just don't do them except in very limited circumstances, unless they seemingly work in your favor financially, unless they're in a setup where you do have a chance of hitting the time metric, but you rarely do. I tend to be one of those people who looks for reasons to reject orders as opposed to looking for reasons to accept them, which I think has served me well over the years. Because I think it's kept me out of a lot of problems with both metrics as well as my expenses. So, again, stacked orders, kryptonite. Just don't touch them unless you have a very valid reason to accept them. Yeah. Now, I will make one small exception for this, and that exception is if you have two different separate pickups and they're both going to the same customer. You can legitimize this if the numbers work in your favor, because you can explain to this customer, if you're running behind at one, that the other one is that the whole package is gonna come to them late because restaurant A was delayed. So therefore the whole thing is gonna be delayed, and you don't have to worry about explaining what happens with restaurant B because it's the same person. Easy peasy. You can explain that. If it's not going to one person, fantastic. The other ones that are stacks that you can probably legitimize are for pickups like in my market, PetSmart and Walmart. They're not customers. You have an on-time metric and you might miss it, and if you're in the gray zone, if you will, in your metrics, you might still want to refuse these. But for Walmart in particular, they're coming from the same place. Customers typically don't expect these in any particular time, and they're not nearly as picky. So if the dollars and miles work out in your favor on those, I still take those. Walmart in particular can be fairly lucrative. So that's a stacked order I will take. If I'm going to 3 different people in remote areas, for example, they know it's going to be a while. They know it's not going to necessarily line up exactly with the app. If they're 10 miles outside of town, for example, they just know it. And it's Walmart. They're not. It's not hot food or not anything they're expecting immediately fresh. It's their groceries or something that they order from the lawn and garden section, for example. Home Depot being obviously, now I mentioned turf and things like that. Home Depot is another example. I will take a double order from them because they're not. Timeliness doesn't matter as much with those as it does with the restaurant orders. So again, if the time, the dollars, the miles, if I'm getting that $1.44 per mile at least, which is my break-even point on those trips, by all means, go for it. But otherwise, barring those minority exceptions, stacked orders are your kryptonite, and I would rarely accept them because of the risk to your timeliness rating and also the risk to your customer rating. Those metrics are important. You get hit enough on those, you will get deactivated. So these are the things to watch out for. Again, this is my 4111 on stacked orders. I will leave it at this for now, and I will see you folks tomorrow. Peace out, homies.